Hi, I'm Dan Crawl. I've been in this class this semester. My group was supposed to be the event management group too. However, they didn't contact me and never returned any of my messages. So I went ahead and did this by myself. I do apologize. It's literally the first group assignment that's gone that way, but this is my last class of the semester and I'll be graduated after this. So I'm kind of just, you know what, just give me a grade. All right, so let me get a screen share going here and I can start my presentation. Okay, you should be able to see that now. This is where we started. We'll give you guys a quick overview of what we're going to do and talk about today. Definition one, the International Management Group. They are a leading management group, marketing group. Originally, they were founded, I believe, in the I want to say early 1960s. They specialize in all kinds of things, but really do focus in on sporting and sporting media. So they also premiered and pioneered athletic commercial rights management. So that was kind of cool. They started managing Wimbledon and UFC events as well. Whoops, there we go. So we have two of the original owners here, as well as their first client. Sorry, owner and client. We've got McCormick and Arnold Palmer in this picture. Obviously, everybody knows Arnold Palmer from golf. Oop, I've got a customer. Yeah. What's up, bud? Thanks, man. Okay, so I'm officially back. I am currently at work. So I do all my schoolwork while I'm sitting here at my hotel job. So that's why you see me disappear, and you might still see me disappear again, but it's not personal. So we've got tournaments as our definition three. We wanted to talk about how Oxford explains it and then give you an example of what that would look like. Obviously, everybody knows FIFA, so it makes it pretty easy to do. Next, we have sponsorships. That's defined by Oxford as an association of a company or brand with a sporting event. You see Coke all the time, so I figured that was an easy one to just throw in there. Even at University of Iowa, the Coke still holds that concession rights, and that's why you don't get Pepsi there. So obviously, they've also very worldwide, which is pretty impressive when you think about their whole marketing plan as a company. But for sports, that means they can literally be relevant around the entire world too. So not only are they in the fridges and the pantries of people's homes all around the world, anybody in any place will recognize Coca-Cola. And I think that's pretty cool too. Full service agency. Those are our departments with, an advertising agency with departments for creative work, media planning, and market research. So these are the guys who are planning your event. They're trying to make sure that you've got everything you need to create your event to go off without a hitch. So this is somebody you pay them and they'll create media, they will create digital content. They can even sometimes run social medias. But so pretty much full service industry, full service agency is that. Obviously, you can think about this company right here, Wyden and Kennedy. They do all of Nike's major event sponsorships. So that's kind of a neat little thing that I found when I was searching this. Media planning, the strategic process of selecting who's going to put your program or your event out there. So in the NFL, what we deal with is there are companies that want to broadcast NFL games, and then they have to secure the rights. But obviously, somebody at the NFL side has to make sure that that conversation happens. So that's when we're talking about the media planning here. And as far as like, we even saw some of that led to the corruption in FIFA a couple of years ago. So that's an interesting topic that isn't to be taken lightly. You have to do it right. You have to make sure that you're making everybody happy, or especially in today's world, they'll just tear you down. Risk management, that's an easy place to go from there. So obviously there are so many things that can go wrong with an event. I mean, Fire Fest, or snow days at football games, or lightning strikes, tornadoes. Hell, they had an earthquake at a World Series game in I believe it was 89. I might have been a little earlier than that. It was the San Francisco earthquake. And it happened literally on live TV. Could you imagine if that's your event, you're broadcasting it? Holy cow. So something kind of interesting. You really need to think about that. I also have dabbled in insurance for a lot of years. So definitely get why those can be internal too. They don't just have to be weather events. But even something like a marathon, I saw something a couple years ago. There was one down in Texas. They were doing a full on, oh, what do they call those with the triathlon? There you go. And the weather wasn't right. Well, they ended up having at least one person drown because they didn't have everything they needed in place to secure the event safely. So they went on and without doing it, but they didn't consider that somebody could drown if they were frankly negligent, and that's what happens. So my other pandemic example, I mean, I hate to talk anything about the pandemic. I'm so glad it's over, but obviously if they were going to host the Olympics, they had to do it very differently. Same with the NFL. We had to take everybody out of the stadium, and there was some talk, how do you host a game safely? They said we can do it, and they did. I mean, the NBA and all these other ones shut down, but the NFL found a way to make it happen. They managed the risk. Obviously, budget is a big thing. You're going to need financial statements that are clear, concise, and easily looked at, read by even the layman. So the London Olympics, because there was so much going on and so many different things involved, they were very, very strict about what was done and what was where, and they stuck to it. And they managed to get out of the Olympics without having a major economic crisis like we saw in Greece or some other places where those venues are just trashed after the event and you really don't get anything out of it. London was able to keep themselves afloat, probably a little bit because of risk management planning, but a lot of budgeting, making sure they weren't just spending excess on crappy stadiums that were one off. So obviously activity-based budgeting is another side of that. You're going to want to make sure that you can determine where your resources are going for each event. Not every event is going to require the same amount of budgeting. Some require more, some require less. It's just that simple. Obviously, you got to figure out your staffing. One other thing that comes with staffing is volunteer work. A lot of times that is pretty common because they just need people to work, but they don't need them necessarily long term. That event is perishable. They're going to be gone in 3, 4, 5 hours after the event. So sometimes you just need somebody there to escort old lady to the elevator, or I don't know, crisis management. I mean, you probably pay for crisis management, but the idea being that you've got all these volunteers and they come in and will make your event work. I mean, you can even see that when you're looking at the ballot boxes. That's not a sporting event per se, but somebody has to go around to all these little places, arrange polling venues, and get people in there. And they're not paying those people, but people volunteer their time. And as you say, it's an event. So obviously we used the Women's FIFA Cup because there were so many people needed, and it really did make the experience better. So I think you'll see more of that going forward. Consideration is a tangible benefit exchanged within a contract. So it'd be like, oh, NBC doesn't want. They did this a couple years ago with their announcers. When they went to Thursday Night Football, they originally didn't bring Al Michaels. And there was a lot of blowback from that because that was considered in the contract, even though it was never actually stated. It was tangibly benefit for the viewers. So if he wasn't there, the product wasn't as good. So we want to get those considerations in when we're doing them, make sure they're in writing, make sure we understand again, these considerations also lead back to budget and even risk management because you've got to take into all these different things and who your contractors are and all these little pieces. So definitely something you want to keep in mind. Obviously, we want to pull all of that together into a compact, nice little ball. So the idea is the event management framework combines all of those: the strategic planning, the financial control, the communication, the budgeting. I guess that is financial control, the risk management, and even, where's your staff coming from? So you need to make sure you're looking at all of those things to make sure your event goes off without a hitch. Here's a couple real world summaries. I'll just let you look at those. We do FIFA with sponsorship. That gives some global visibility. Risk management, we talked about the Tokyo Olympics. Budgeting, we talked about 2012. Media planning, that we didn't really talk about the Super Bowl, but you still have to figure it out. It's also playoff games. It's who's hosting Amazon Prime. And obviously, we talked about the Women's World Cup volunteers and how that made that event really, really well taken care of. So I did include an interactive quiz. I doubt that the PDF is going to let me play with it, but it's here. And then one of the questions that was asked earlier, we were almost prompted to give this, so I will go ahead and answer that. We want to consider the balance between the commercial industry and the sporting integrity. So just because something is necessary makes you money doesn't make the sport better. I think it's frankly why we don't see more advertisers on jerseys in the NFL. You're starting to see that around the league with soccer and even NBA, where they're starting to get more commercial interest in that. And then you can go as far as sports betting. Does sports betting make your sport less? Does it create the illusion that your sport has less integrity? So that's the idea. Again, when you give somebody a lot of power like Fox or NBC, they're going to want a certain type of product from you. Yeah, they're broadcasting your product. They want to make sure it meets their values. So they'll generally influence what has happened, whether that's the situation with the Colin Kaepernick kneeling situation where there was a lot of blowback to it. A lot of people didn't like it. So they ended up basically, you don't see it. You just don't see it. 4 years ago, that was a thing that was in every stadium, and we just don't see it because the commercial interest didn't match up with the sports integrity. People didn't see that as something that was necessary because they just wanted sports to be free of politics. And that was a commercial interest, corporate interest, and it wasn't necessary. So I digress. My apologies. But obviously, we want to talk about all of those coming together. So I included some references here. You can see the event documentation here. We did use the Oxford Dictionary and multiple sources around the internet. Thank you again for your time. I really appreciate you sitting with me while I go and just hack it out with y'all. But this has been a great class, and I'm so happy to be here. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and we'll see you next project.